Hi folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, this time of the year, I think we all can remember that this is when the salmon come up into the rivers to spawn. We don't really have any of that kind of fishing in this area, but just south of us, down in the Salmon River in Pulaski, there is incredible fall fishing. But here's what's happened. I just got off the phone with my buddy Rocky, and he told me the fish have come in early. He thinks it's because the floodwaters had so much current, so much strength, that it sort of appealed to the fish. You know, this is what really stimulates them this time of the year. It's when the water starts building up velocity and they come in to spawn. And so he thinks this might be the reason that the fish have come in early this year. But he said right now, there are silver salmon, and what that means is they're still fresh from the lake. There are salmon all the way up to the hatchery, and what that really means for us is that any section of the river may hold groups of fish right now. The other things, when they come up in groups, they're more aggressive. Maybe it's competitive or whatever, but he said those fish are really feeding right now. You know, we usually think that when salmon come up to spawn, they stop eating. Their whole instinct is just to spawn, but Rocky said that's not true. He says, I want you to remember something. These fish enter the river and head out to the lake when they're just little fingerlings, and in 2 years' time, they return and they weigh up to 30 pounds. They didn't get that big by not eating. They have this tremendous voracity to just constantly feed. And that's what gets them so big. So we should be aware now that there's some amazing fishing in that river. And the fish are going to give you a battle greater than any other time because they are so fresh. They have all their strength right now. So what would you use? You know, I asked Rocky this because I know a lot of us that don't get to do this really don't have all those skills. He said because they are so voracious right now, he has shifted his concentration. In the past, he would use egg sacs a lot at this time. But he says, I'm using woolly buggers. And he ties them, and they're big woolly buggers. Now, you can buy woolly buggers any place. You could go to Runnings, for example, and they have a great selection of woolly buggers. They have them in Walmart. But Rocky ties them. And I said, what color, Rocky? He says, white is the color he has been using more. He likes it because he gets more fish using that. But he says, I don't make them all white. I have a section of a contrasting color, usually in the tail, that just makes them more apparent to the fish. He said, I also like to use marabou for the tail section because marabou looks different in the water. But he said he's using size 4, 6. And the other thing that he wanted me to be able to pass on to all of you is that the weight that you select can make all the difference in the world. It can make a difference of whether this goes down in the current and in the stream at the right speed and depth. But also, it can make a difference of whether you're snagging all the time and losing tons of baits. So, here's what Rocky does. He says, rather than use a bead on the woolly bugger, he uses a split shot above it, and he can change that depending on which pool he goes into, because each pool is going to have a different depth and it's going to have a different speed of current. So all these things are absolutely amazing tips, including he's using size 4 or 6 hooks. I got to tell you, if you've never caught a fresh run salmon, you can't believe the power of the fight. You're not going to land very many of them because they're going to get off or break your line or something. But this is the time of year, and the Salmon River is, maybe it's safe for me to say it's the king of all rivers. It's a place where people around the world have chosen to come to fulfill their bucket list. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.